Welcome to the Time to Fly podcast. It's time to give your business wings and take flight to achieve more impact, influence, and income with unique perspectives, tools, and tips from successful entrepreneurs and business professionals to help your business fly. Here to educate, encourage, and entertain you with their own unique perspectives and experience, plus sharing anecdotes of growing up as cowgirls. Here's your co-hosts, Jill Fleming and Nikole Haumont.
Hello, and welcome to this episode of Time to Fly, Give Your Business Wings. I'm your host today, Jill Fleming, here with my co-host, Nikole Haumont. And today we're going to be discussing being a leading learner. I just attended a conference last week by the Entrepreneurs Institute. And at the Institute, they talked about the time of being a teaching teacher has passed and it is now a time of being a leading learner. So to stay on the edge of what's new and what's changing in this ever-changing world, we need to continue to be a leading learner, learning new things and then teaching them as we go. A few things that I took away from that conference at the Entrepreneur Institute last week here in San Diego was really talking about perspective. It's really about getting a different point of view and being able to look at things from a different perspective. And at the conference, they gave an example of in a football game, they have halftime. And at halftime is when they go into the locker room, they evaluate what's going on, they look at it from a different perspective, and they have an opportunity to change their plan of attack. They get away from it for a little while. They get a different perspective. They get to talk one-on-one with their coach to be like, okay, this isn't working. What can we do differently? And really gain that different perspective to come back out in the game and hopefully turn it around. And you see all these last minute comebacks in all these wonderful football games. And with the Super Bowl coming up here next week, I thought that was an appropriate analogy. Another thing that they taught at this conference is going where the flow is. He talked about it being kind of like a wave, and you can be on top of the wave, you can be under the wave, but really in this time of changing environments, he said, how about if you surf the wave? And by surfing the wave, you're continuing to be that leading learner and you're surfing the wave as it comes and catch another wave and surf that one. And also talked about opportunity, that there's lots of choices and too many maybes. Sometimes we look at opportunities as an obligation. And one of the things about not choosing opportunities is that when we aren't putting those opportunities out for others, we're costing other people because we're not being at our greatest of really passing on that information that we learn and putting it out into the marketplace, into our communities to help lessen the learning curve of everyone else, because not everyone is a leading learner. And by passing that information on, kind of like what we're doing here in our podcast, we can help others shorten their learning curve and catch that wave. Another topic that came up that was really interesting at the conference was not deciding is a decision. And so often when I'm talking with entrepreneurs and I'm asking them questions about what's going on, they talk about, oh, I don't know. Well, I don't know is a decision. You can choose not to know. And by choosing not to know, you're basically choosing to stay stuck. Whereas when you can go out and you can speak to a coach or you can speak to someone else in the industry and help get some insight of going, okay, if I did know, what would I choose? If I could have this all my way, what would it look like? And so instead of choosing to be stuck and choosing to be in the I don't know is a decision. So people are thinking that, oh, I don't know, I don't have to make a decision. Well, that's a decision as well. And Nikole, have you seen that happen with the people that you work with, especially when you're helping them get their LinkedIn up to date or helping them get their websites revised?
Yes, definitely not deciding is a decision. We have clients who routinely say, oh, I want to do XYZ, and I send a proposal and they sit on it. So one thing that I've started to do to help make that decision easier is to give them a deadline. You know, when I'm doing a website quote, these prices are only good for 90 days. Then we have to revisit it. So hopefully by having a deadline for yourself in your mind or from somebody else on paper, it will get you past that I don't know to actually making a decision. Whether it's good, right, or indifferent, it doesn't matter. You got to get it done and figure it out.
The beautiful thing about a decision is if you don't like the outcome is you can usually make another one.
That is very true. I mean, like they say, the road of indecision is flattened with lots of squirrels. So pick a lane. You can always take a detour later if you need to. And you know what? Take the next off ramp, circle back, and start again. It's not the end all be all.
Right.
So Jill, with going to the conference, how has your perspective changed? I know you've had a little over a week to contemplate everything. What's different for you now with the leading learner?
One of the things that was discussed at the conference is, are you in the right vehicle? They gave an example of, if you wanted to go 4 blocks in an hour, what vehicle could you take? And, you could walk 4 blocks in an hour. You could take a bicycle, you could take a scooter. There's different vehicles that would get you there. But what if you wanted to go 4 miles in an hour? Okay, if you want to go 4 miles an hour, maybe you would take an Uber or you would drive your car. What if you wanted to go 40 miles in an hour? Then you definitely want to take a car. And then what about if you wanted to go 400 miles in an hour? Then that vehicle, probably you would need a plane. But then what if you wanted to go 4,000 miles in an hour? Then you would probably need a rocket ship. Just that perspective of talking through that, it was asking, is like, is the vehicle you're in taking you where you want to go in the time frame that you want to get there? And that led to the concept of thinking of moonshot thinking. If you were going to shoot for the moon, how would you get there? How do you 10x your thinking? How do you add a 0 to what you're thinking? And that really talked to me, because one of the things I love talking to people about is going beyond logic. Usually we get stuck by our logic, and the concept of the moonshot thinking was really appealing to me, because it does get you out of that box. It gets you out of that logic and into thinking of like, okay, if there were no limitations, how could this happen? What would this look like? And it really got me thinking around my business of, is the way I'm doing my business, is the vehicle I'm currently in, is it getting me where I want to go? And with that thinking, I then reached out to Nikole and I'm like, hey, Nikole, I think I want to redesign my website. I don't feel like my current vehicle, my current website is taking me where I want to go. I've had it for a couple of years, and I really kind of got that awareness of, hey, I need to update my website. I need to update my vehicle around my business to give it a new wrap, to put a new engine in it, so to speak, to really update it for new things that I'm doing and new energies that I've brought into my business. And so that was one of the things that really came out of it for me.
So you're saying, Jill, that we need to give up our horse and buggy ways and shoot for the moon with our thinking?
Absolutely. If we think back to the late 1800s, when it was horse and buggy, right? And the main mode of transportation was a horse. And even though we still like being transported by horses, there are faster ways to get there. And the horse and buggy has kind of gone by the wayside. Although you get into some parts of the United States and people still like to travel by horse and buggy. And it's a way of life. It's a choice. So if that's your choice of how you want to operate your business, you can absolutely do it that way. But there's also the information superhighway that you can get out on. And another discussion that we had is that most often your market isn't close to you. That was a discussion we had at the event, is that we often look in our own backyard for our clients, but we're a global economy now. There are people all over the world that need what we offer. And oftentimes we don't market to a global economy. We market only to our own backyard. And so how could you get into a different vehicle if you started marketing to a global economy versus your local economy? And how could that moonshot your business, take it to that next level? With the resources that they were talking about at the conference, like there's so many ways of Google Translate and being able to translate your message and be able to reach a market that may speak a different language and may be looking for what we have to offer that we haven't even considered yet.
Yes, with Google Translate and being able to connect with people on LinkedIn, I mean, it is a worldwide site where you can do it. So I really don't see a reason why you can't be a global brand these days, whether you're doing a product, a service, or even speaking engagements like Jill and myself do on occasion. So with the moonshot, I like this idea, shooting for the moon. How are you applying that in your business now?
I think with the moonshot, it really comes back to what I talked about a lot anyway, of going beyond logic. And it's another concept that I can use to help people see that. A great example that we discussed at the conference is Elon Musk. He's a guy that does the moonshot. When he first started out and said he wanted to have electric vehicles, everyone told him that that wasn't possible. And look at all the Teslas on the road now. And when he had the idea that he was sick of being stuck in traffic in LA, that he was going to make tunnels to be able to transport you faster, everyone told him he was out of his mind. Well, the first segment opened up here in the past few weeks. So I think part of that moonshot thinking is really thinking outside the box, going beyond logic to what's possible that other people may think is impossible, and really taking the shot for it. It's one of my favorite quotes is, shoot for the moon, because even if you miss, you'll still be among the stars.
You'd also mentioned, you guys discussed shorten the learning curve. What ideas did they give you to do that?
Well, part of shortening the learning curve, I believe, is that leading learner, being out there and learning from other people who are out in the world. So the gentleman that was putting on the event is Roger Hamilton with Entrepreneurs Institute. Roger, he's based out of Bali, and he works with entrepreneurs all over the world. And so going to his workshop that day and hearing such a different perspective, such a global perspective, was so enlightening to me, because a lot of the things in the networking events that I attend locally have more of a local feel to them. It's more based off of our local economy. Whereas hearing the perspectives from Roger, he has a global perspective, and it really opened my eyes to how I've been thinking more locally and not globally. Another thing that we talked about at the event was building community. The wave of the future is having community-based businesses, building tribes. The traditional ways of marketing that have become so oversaturated that people just aren't listening anymore. And they gave an example that community members give you time and your clients give you money. And your community members may not be your clients. Usually there may be a small percentage of them, but usually community members have more time than money. But the community members are the ones that talk to potential clients who have more money than time. And that as business owners, especially in like service-based businesses, that's where our job comes in, is going in and helping to shorten that learning curve, helping to, like for you example of when I talk to you about building a website, right? You could build a website in 3 hours. For me, it would probably take 30 days. So really shortening that curve and really being open with your community. If you're offering free things and offering things to your community, make sure you continue to offer them value for their time and not turning something that's free into then, oh my gosh, now you're here, now you have to buy something. Instead of, you can offer things to your community members to see if it's of interest for them. And what he said is like usually about 10%, which is normal in sales, may be interested as you're building a community, but still remembering to continue to add value to your community members because they're paying you in time. And time is our most precious commodity, is getting people's attention. And they went through an example of how to get people's attention like a 5-lane highway. Everyone's on the superhighway of the internet, and it's trying to get people to slow down and change lanes and take a look at what you're offering. And so as they're in that superhighway of like, oh, hey, I have something over here of value for you. And they slow down a little bit and they change lanes. And then are like, okay, they become a community member and they change lanes more and they're paying you more with time. And then if there's something that you're offering that will be of value to them, they make a decision and maybe they will purchase. So for you, an example, so maybe they like what you have to say and they purchase a smaller package from you called like a LinkedIn refresh. So they've made a decision and that slowed them down and even more to building more trust with you. And it's all about building trust. There's 3 levels of trust. There's internal, which is your internal confidence, external, which is credibility, and then future trust, which is predictability. And so as people are slowing down and as they're gaining more trust with you and you're continuing to deliver value, they slow down more as you continue to add that value. So maybe they purchased a small LinkedIn refresh from you and they like what you did. And then they come back later and they're like, hey, I need a website. You've built that trust with them and they've changed lanes through that process to then become a client to really slow down and really work one-on-one with you. And so that was a really interesting viewpoint for me on a pipeline of how to gain people's trust and how to get them to slow down and build that community where you're absolutely adding value. And then you can add even more value for a small percentage of those that want to have more time with you and want to work with you one-on-one.
I think that really means that the old saying, free has no value, has been thrown out the window.
Absolutely. I think free is a way of building trust. A friend of mine once called it as being a taste on a toothpick. You walk by the food court and everybody's out there with a tray and they give you a taste. And you're like, oh, this is good. And so I think having free content and providing value to people on the internet superhighway, it gets them to slow down and start being aware of what you have to offer. And then as you continue to provide value, and that was something that was really stressed, is over delivering value. I think that's really something in this economic environment that we're in is the what's in it for me. If we can really show value, then people really make decisions quickly.
I'm a firm believer that people do business with people that they know, like, and trust. And like you said, with the global economy, we have tons of potential out there for finding these clients. And another old saying that comes to mind is it's not who you know, but who they know. So I think the 10% of the people you know that may become clients can exponentially be a much larger number.
And with that, we're going to take a quick break from our sponsor and we will be right back.
This episode is sponsored by the book Freedom to Fly, the visionary leader's guide to unlocking your unique freedom code to confidently create more impact, influence, and income. Get your copy of this best-selling book on Amazon.com.
And we're back. This is Jill Fleming, and I'm here with my co-host, Nikole Haumont, and we've been talking about being a leading learner. Nikole, what do you do to stay on top of what's relevant in your industry?
Well, with being a work-from-home mom, my time is limited to being able to go out on nights and weekends. So I choose my events carefully that I'm going to, but I am on the internet on a daily basis researching the topics that I'm interested in. So I have a few different favorite sites, and depending on what the topic is and how in-depth I want to go on it, I'll even set up a Google alert. So every time new research or a new article is released on that specific topic, I get notified in real time and can keep ahead of the learning curve and know what's going on in website design, in LinkedIn, etc.
Yeah, I love Google Alerts. I have different alerts set up for myself and they just pop up and I don't have to actually go look for them. Google does all the work for me. So if you don't have Google Alerts set up for your industry, I highly recommend it.
Yes, all you have to do is go to Google and search how to set up a Google alert, and there's like a little 4-step process there that does it automatically for you. And I just have them delivered daily. I don't need to have it in real time too fast, but a daily update makes it easier to read through them at the end. We both go to a lot of conferences. You go to a lot more just because of your location. And we believe in continuing education. We go there to learn, but we're also going there to network with other entrepreneurs and business owners. How do you set your intentions when you go to these conferences?
I think for me, when I'm looking and evaluating a conference to go to, I really look at what type of people would be attracted to that conference. There's a concept I believe in of the 80-20 rule, and I believe that 20% of the population are leading learners as well, and they're attracted to events like conferences. So I love going to conferences because I get a network with other people like myself that are also on the leading edge of their industry. Because I believe people who want to continue learning are people that I want to surround myself with. When I go to these events, I definitely go there to learn, but it's more so to network. So when I'm looking at going to an event, I set an intention to meet 5 to 10 really strong contacts. And one of the things that I look for is I actually set an intention that whoever I'm supposed to meet will be magically magnetized to me and they'll just come up and want to talk to me. And it's so interesting how often that happens. I'll be talking to someone and someone will walk up and go, I feel like I'm supposed to talk to you. And I was like, oh, this is one of the people I'm supposed to meet. You can do it other ways, I'm sure, but that's what works for me. And I have met some of the most interesting people that way. The key thing, though, is to nurture those relationships and to follow up. And Nikole, I know that you have a follow-up process that you use, because I know my follow-up skills are not the strongest, something I always have to purposely work on. And I actually still have a few people to follow up from the event last week. So Nikole, would you share with us your follow-up process?
Yes, like they say, fortune is in the follow-up, except for I don't define myself as a salesperson, but I'm genuinely interested in connecting with people that I want to know more about and figure out how I can help them. So I do have a 4-step follow-up plan. It's something that I've developed over the years and that I do with people that I truly want to keep a connection with. Jill taught me about setting the intentions prior to going to a networking event or a conference, and I use that. When you're at an event, of course, you're going to exchange business cards. That's just how it is done. But when you get home that evening before going to bed, go through those business cards and only keep the ones that you truly want to connect with. Then what you're going to want to do is add them to a CRM, a customer retention management system. There's paid ones out there. There's free versions out there. I'm still content using Google for the most part. And there's the note section within Google Contacts where you can make notes of when you met them, different interests, things like that. You can add their birth date, all sorts of fun stuff like that if you want to. I usually include a few things like I met Randy at this business networking event and he works for this company and he had gray hair and a bright blue tie on, because that kind of gives me a visual reminder of what he looks like. And then as soon as I add them to the CRM, I actually go to LinkedIn and try to find them on there. Now, depending on how active they are on LinkedIn, some of them may not be there. Some of them may have a way outdated profile. But try to find them and send a connection request. As a second resort, I will find them on Facebook and at least send them a message through there. I may not connect with them as friends quite yet because I still use my Facebook more as a personal Facebook to connect with my family and friends all across the US. So that's the third step, adding them on LinkedIn. And then the fourth step, and this only happens if they have an address on their business card, is I will send them a handwritten note card telling them it was nice to meet them, including where we met, and one little tidbit from the conversation that we had to remind them and jog their memory of who I was. Now, in this note card is not the time to include your business card. However, I highly suggest getting some personalized note cards and on the back have your company and website name. So that's one thing that I like to do is I have a generic hello note card. And on the back of it, it says either Shield Bar Marketing, shieldbar.com, or Standout Pro, standoutpro.com on it. So that way, when they turn it over, they'll see the information. I simply sign off on the note card as Sincerely Nikole Haumont. So then it is truly a reaching out, developing a relationship type of card instead of a sales pitch by including my business card in the card.
I think those are great tips and definitely having a process for follow-up. What are your thoughts on sending an email if they don't have an address on their business card?
That would be my 4A step. Sending an email would be a subset of sending the note card. If they don't have a physical address that I can send a handwritten note card, I will send them an email. Same information. I include, nice to meet you last night, reference the event, reference 1 or 2 topics that we discussed, and then just end out with a Sincerely Nikole Haumont. Now, my email signature is there that has my website, my calendar link, and all of that. Depending on the person, sometimes I leave it all because everybody has an email signature if they're in business. Otherwise, I just erase all except for the Sincerely Nikole Haumont, Shield Bar Marketing, or Standout Pro. One thing with the note cards, if they do have a physical address, it makes you memorable. I had met a gentleman at an event, and he is a real estate agent and broker here in Sahuarita. And then I joined the chamber, and I went to an event as a new chamber member, and he remembered me and introduced me to his wife. And we found out that literally we live about 0.25 miles apart from each other. And so by sending that note card, he remembered me. And he even remembered my name and introduced me to his wife. Now we see each other quite frequently, and we know each other even in the grocery store.
It is, in this day and age, doing what you can to stand out. And you are the standout pro, so listen to her tips.
Yes, a handwritten note these days is pretty much unheard of.
One of the other things that I think when you're at an event is we talk about being an extrovert, being an introvert, being an ambivert. What I notice too with extroverts is that they're kind of like a butterfly trying to pollinate all the flowers, sometimes flitting around each person and giving business cards out without really building a connection. And then on the flip side, we have your introverts who like to be wallflowers and have more difficulty getting out and speaking to different people. And so with that, what I always encourage is for your extrovert people to slow down a little bit, get more of a connection. Instead of trying to meet 20 people, meet 5 to 10 and have more of a connecting conversation. And then on the flip side of your introverts, instead of just meeting 1 or 2 people and talking to them all night, encourage yourself to meet 3 to 5 people. One is pushing yourself a little bit out of your comfort zone, and then another one is kind of pulling yourself back. Extroverts, I look at as going wide and shallow, and introverts are more comfortable going narrow and deep with conversation. If you're an introvert, going and having that conversation, but making an effort to meet a few more people and get their cards to follow up with them and to build more of that deep conversation through a thank you card, through an email at a later date. What are your thoughts on that, Nikole?
I would agree. I definitely trend more to being an introvert. I have to psych myself up and be like, yes, I get to go to an event. I get to be around adults because I work from home and my boss is a 6-year-old. So I do enjoy going to those events, and definitely I lean more to the 3 to 5 people. I would rather get to know those people. And yes, I have ran into extroverts at the events I go to. And as an introvert, ambivert type person, they exhaust me because they just come at you so fast and you don't know how to make a connection with them before they're gone again. So making those deeper connections as an extrovert and challenging yourself and rewarding yourself to be more like an extrovert is a great way to get yourself going.
I run into that as well, is everyone thinks I'm an extrovert, but I am really, truly more of an introvert. And it's really a turnoff when people come by at a networking event and do kind of like what I call like a drive-by. They're like, hi, here's my card. Hi, here's my card. Hi, here's my card. I will never follow up with you. And more than likely, if you call me, I was like, you're going to try to spam me with stuff as opposed to really being interested in who I am. And I highly discourage it. So don't be a drive-by networker.
One thing that has helped me, and it very well may help other introverts out there, is I put on my superhero cape. Okay, so it's not an actual cape because that would be way too extroverted for me. But I have certain colors that I wear when I go to a networking event. For me, it's my bright blues and my whites and reds, kind of an Americana theme, but that's my personality. And when I put that dress or that jacket on that are in my colors and I pin my name tag on, I'm like, okay, I'm going to work now. So I need to have a smile on my face and I need to make genuine connections with people. So figure out what your superhero cape is and put it on, and that'll give you that little extra protection and also that little extra oomph in your step when you do walk in.
I think that's great advice too of we have our normal, right? But putting your superhero cape on and I'm going out to connect with people and to network, of really getting out there and connecting. And I look at that too when I go to an event. When I said 5 to 10 people, that's usually over 3 days. And so I meet a few people the first day. I try not to just hang out with the people I met the first day and force myself to meet people the second and third day as well. But at the end of those 3 days, as more of an introvert personality, I'm exhausted. And usually a day after event is a recharge day for me. And if you are an introvert, that's okay. Just plan a recharge day. But look at the people that you've met over those 3 days that can then potentially move your business forward. So going to these events with my superhero cape on basically for 3 days and being very extroverted and talking to people and networking and meeting people, I am exhausted at the end of those 3 days. And I look at it as kind of like a gas tank. With introverts, when we're around people, our gas tank is going down. And with extroverts, when they're around people, their gas tank is going up. And so just knowing as an introvert, when you're going to these events and you're meeting with people, doing what you can for energy management. And I teach a course called Energy Management for Entrepreneurs that I walk people step by step through how to manage their energy, especially if you're an introvert, at different events so that you can get out there. It's not that you don't do these things. It's just that you manage your energy and know that after being at an event or being at a 3-day event, that you schedule yourself a recharge day. And then you get right back to business. And then you start following up with those people on the next day. And so just knowing that there's a process to it too.
And one thing too, with me living in a smaller community, I run into the same people over and over. And one thing I strive to do is, of course, catch up with them briefly for like a minute and say, okay, now I'm going to go network with other people, because most of the people that I run into over and over at our chamber events, they know that we're all there to network. But if I have met somebody interesting and I know somebody that they should know, I will go out of my way to make an introduction, because I like to help people find other people who are going to help them too. And that's another level of building that know, like, and trust, because of the people you know who you can introduce and help other people, which in turn will keep you at top of mind when it comes to your services.
Yeah, I agree. I think for you and I, Nikole, we're both natural connectors. As we're talking with people and as we're networking, we naturally see connections for people of, oh, you should talk to so-and-so because they're doing this. And I have that happen all the time, connecting people that they have similar purposes and passions. And I've done that over and over again. Sometimes, like being a natural connector, they just take it and run with it and they're just off to the races, which is interesting as well. So for those of you listening that want to be more of a leading learner, I would really encourage you to look out in your community. What conferences are out there? What events are out there that you can get out and go network? If you're wanting to network more online, I highly recommend you checking out Nikole's free resources on Standout Pro. And if you are an entrepreneur that has a hard time managing your energy, I'm launching a course called Energy Management for Entrepreneurs that you can find out more about at livingbeyondlogic.com. So with that, Nikole and I, we wish you adieu. And remember, it's time to fly. Give your business wings.
A big thank you to this episode's sponsor, Freedom to Fly, the visionary leader's guide to unlocking your unique freedom code to confidently create more impact, influence, and income. Get your copy of this best-selling book on Amazon.com.
Join our flock. Stay informed of all things Time to Fly by subscribing to our newsletter at timetoflypodcast.com. And be sure to tune in to our next show.